get a copy.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Roll call. I see Caleb's here. Kira's here. Village President Mansell's here. Diane's here and our village administrator. And we have 2 citizens in the audience. Approve the agenda and approve the committee minutes from June 8th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I second.
Motion seconded. Any questions? Comments, discussion? With none, I'll take a vote. All in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We can't vote.
Public comments on the agenda. Do you have any comments?
I don't know, I didn't know what's on the agenda. I had some questions that I didn't know where to go, and I thought this was the place to ask them for answers. I talked to Ron a little bit earlier here. I wanted to know what the complaint that was brought up in the last meeting that I went to about Trustee Grundon, how that's being handled. And I wanted the clarification in that meeting also, and Trustee Caleb, didn't allow it, of what our pay ideas were for paying different firemen different wages. I wanted a clarification of that, and does apps represent you as a board or individually too? I don't know
Well,
where to take them questions. So
I guess, I'm not aware of any complaint that's been filed against any board member at this time. So that's where I'm at with that. The village attorney represents the village as a whole. Mainly the board, and gives us legal advice on which way to go. The pay, hasn't been brought up and it's not on the agenda for any different pay grade. I think that's being worked out as far as policies and procedures from the public safety. I did watch the video on the public safety committee, the last one. I wasn't able to attend. So that's about all I can answer for you. Boz, do you have
I
anything?
think your comments are for public safety, which is at 5 o'clock today, not
Yep.
this meeting.
I wasn't sure if it's FHR or if it's.
Yeah, nothing from public safety has moved to this meeting for personnel reasons,
It
issues.
would
It
eventually.
eventually should.
That's
If they want to
what-
change the pay structure, it has to come here.
Okay.
Yes, but nothing has.
So I'm
that's
just
gonna
coming to
be-
ask some questions.
That's gonna be this afternoon's discussion.
Clarifications.
Yeah, so that would be, nothing's brought to FHR at this time.
Okay.
So that would be at the 5 o'clock meeting.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Sims, do you have any questions about agenda items?
No, first one of these I've been to, just want to see how.
Well, welcome,
Works out.
welcome to the,
Jungle.
yes. Okay, chairman's comments. I have none at this time. Discussion and a motion to approve the monthly bills, journal entries, and previous month financial report. I make a motion to do that. Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? I did review them, looks fine. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye, motion passes. Discuss the village handbook and recommendations for further updates.
So then on your seat, I think Kiara picked hers up earlier, but that's the update with all the red ink changes that you all put in the past few meetings. I left all that there. It has been reviewed very, wave top level by Nick. He's waiting on any feedback from y'all before he starts tearing into it. He's already reviewed it once, but since we've been adding some language changes and so on, he hasn't looked at the final copies, and I'd prefer to send that to him as soon as either this meeting's done or I'm on the way for the full board. But it's really just a 95% solution. The only thing you don't have in that packet is all the job descriptions for all our positions. So I've reviewed them all. But honestly, when it comes to a job description, whoever places me, is going to get a chance to review them and either tweak them and add comments. So I would recommend that that person brings all those job descriptions to you after they've had a chance to see, well, they want to maybe make this person in charge of something, vice versa. I can provide them. It's nothing secret. I just didn't, there's a bunch of them. It's all the fire department, it's all the police department. I can print those out, get them copies, and you guys can look at them. Nothing drastically was changed in any of those. It's just not in that packet. It will be part of the employee handbook. If you look in the front, there's some addendums that we had, job. How to apply for a job, that type of stuff is added to our book here, as well as all the job descriptions. Really, just any comments that you have that I need to relook at stuff?
Yeah, I reviewed it. The only thing is, I think the longevity, and I guess it was kind of a budget thing. We changed, you had the $3. We were gonna leave that empty until we knew more on the budget. I guess we could still keep the old number because we know that, I don't mind going to the $3, but I think it was a budget item that we were gonna look at come fall. So
All the
what is
numbers.
it now? $1.50, $1.50 a month? Oh, 175.
So for guidance, all your numbers we pulled to the back, so you have you look towards the back of your packet, you have what we call the labor policy. And then there's 2 pages of additional, anything that changes annually, insurance, longevity possibly. I pulled all the numbers out. I kept the language that we offer longevity pay for employees. That's in the base document. As for what we pay them, it's going to be in a document that's able to be easily changed rather than changing the whole book.
Okay.
So that's towards the back of your product there.
And I guess I don't mind leaving if it was already $1.75, $3 is.
On
I
page
think I'd leave
9,
it.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
On page 9, the harassment policy, we talked about removing the stuff with the protected class. Parts of it got removed, but not in totality.
Okay. No.
So the harassment policy, when it goes down to the 3rd line, practices or harassment against our employees, that should be a period there, striking the entire rest of the paragraph. And then down at the bottom, it then starts again, that is based on protected status.
Okay, all right.
That's supposed to be struck out.
Yeah.
You had sent me an email.
Oh, yeah.
There's a couple things that you were,
So on 22, I know that, controlled substance and alcohol policy. I know we talked about point A, and there is a new one. I don't know if we necessarily revised it exactly in that way. It could have been interpretation from a comment. The only discussion is the sort of the preamble to this section talks about workplace. But the language here in point A is property. Now that probably goes hand in hand with what Attorney Apps had suggested too. But as it was originally understood in the original section before the red, we didn't necessarily discuss it in this exact format, but quite frankly, it's kind of what I had in mind anyway. Is should that language be to workplace? But of course, the question is, we never really defined what the workplace is. In the original one with property, it implies that if you're an employee, regardless of on or off, that would include like the parks. And we had discussed, this is, an employee handbook, not village. So is it the understanding that using, possessing, blah, 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 on village of Port Edwards property 24/7 everywhere, that's village property?
well, I would think, and that would just be when you're working, because this is just, it's a labor policy, or it's just for when they're working. So if they're not working and they want to go to the park and have a beer permitted, they can. So I think properties are right with that, because this is only when they're working, this is just the employee handbook when they're actually working.
Does the revision in red, does that clarify, or does that how it's written with the A and B? Does that clarify because none of the language has changed. It's just simply that we took it from a long sentence and put 2 points on it.
I guess, I see where you're coming from, but I guess. I think it clarifies, while performing your job duties during regular working time or hours. What are you looking for? I guess.
No, I mean, I think originally there was just, the original sentence was awkward.
Like the struck
I think,
out
yeah,
part.
I mean, I guess,
The verbiage.
The
yeah,
verbiage. How would you want to change it?
I mean, I'm just saying if the revisions in A is clear, then, I mean, we can stay with it, because I didn't see it until today, the
Oh,
revised.
okay.
I mean, it's not revised language, it's just revised formatting is all that it is.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's fine because, if we keep looking at changing. Verbiage and ways we say it, I mean. The nuts and bolts of it is. While in a capacity of that you're working and getting paid by the village. You cannot use drugs, alcohol. Or, I mean, it's kind of a common sense thing. If they are, then they're subject to discipline or possible termination. I don't know, I guess I'm not sure.
Well, I guess my question, because the description of a workplace is a workplace 24 hours. It's not, doesn't cease to be a workplace because you check out or it's after office hours. So a workplace up here is, 24/7.
Okay,
So are you saying like, do we have to define the workplace or the properties? Is that what you're?
Well,
asking?
if we,
Or suggesting, I should say, I'm sorry.
I mean, I guess we could, but the language as it is, it just says property. So, I mean, because originally, it implied you are prohibited from using, possessive blah, blah, on the village of Port Edwards property. That is, to me, yes, there's a comma there, but that's an all-inclusive, that was a clause. So that means 24, to me, that's 24 hours, 7 days, regardless if you're on or off duty. That was the first clause.
okay,
And now there's a comma, also while performing your, and then the third one, or while on village property. That's what made it awkward to me. The first part of that sentence was you're prohibited from using on Port Edwards Village property. The sentence goes on, but I mean,
I guess would it be better, to take out village of Port Edwards property and just that you're prohibited from using, or possessing, manufacturing, selling, or distributing, or storing, purchasing, or, disposing alcohol or controlled substance. Period, and it doesn't, why,
Or in the workplace, period.
I guess it doesn't need to have, I understand what you're saying, it doesn't have to say village property, but while you're working, you can't use drugs or alcohol. I guess it doesn't matter if you're on village property or not. I mean, if you're working and now you're working in town of Seneca says, hey, we need you to fill a pothole, and you're told to go over there, and the guys are all drinking a 12-pack, and well, you're still working, but you're not on village property. You can't use it, I mean,
let's see
do we
here.
want to
You're
take
not
off village
prohibited.
property?
Does not
I
go
didn't think
on.
about it that way, but that's a good point. Do we just say
That's prohibited to use it while you're
while you're
working?
working in your workplace? Cause like, I don't remember who pointed out, but like, let's say the boss clocks out at 5 o'clock, but now at 5:15, he has a beer bag there. Like, this is still considered his workplace.
It doesn't cease to be a workplace.
Right. Yes, because this is going to Nick. when we're done.
Yeah, he,
Right.
he commented, he said just be more descriptive of the location or prohibiting.
So then we can list like the municipal building, is that what he's saying?
Well, no,
Description-wise?
he said do that, but that needs to be in ordinance language, not your village handbook. Handbook, I think you hit on it.
It's just a
Handbook
guideline.
is meant to, while on duty hours,
Right,
you
okay.
cannot drink or have illegal drugs.
Right.
While on your duty, if your duty hours for 2 hours a day or 18 hours a day, you can't. It's no language about where not to. Nick's comment was, on the where not to is in an ordinance language that says you cannot drink at these locations.
In your ordinance.
In the ordinance language,
The
and it
ordinance.
specifically says, because we do have a chapter, general government, that village employees are restricted from any alcohol consumption at these locations while on duty. But that's in the ordinance, not in the manual.
Okay, yeah, this is
So-
more of a, really
I see.
a guideline, because you know, if you're violating the ordinance, that's a whole different thing. And it's more detailed in the ordinance. I don't know if you've seen that part of the ordinance.
What chapter are you talking about? in the
We would,
ordinance?
no, it's not in there, that's what Nick's saying, you need to
We
capture
need
it in
to.
there, that came with this whole discussion about fire department, public works. Nick's saying that language needs to be tightened up of specifically where you're restricting it if allowed at all. Not in your village handbook, but in the ordinance language.
Well, I disagree with him. I think it could be in both.
It could be, but then you really have to be overly descriptive. The point there, 5 o'clock, I'm off the clock, but I go up to the music fest to supervise there. I'm kind of still in a capacity, because my shirt says Village of Port Edwards.
Right. you're
But if
still-
we allow alcohol up there for an event, am I wrong if I partake in one drink while I'm walking around schmoozing?
Well, I mean, that's a little bit of part about.
Yeah.
With that language in there, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, because in some ways, I'm not trying to make it more restrictive, I'm trying to make it,
Just
define
clear.
what.
Make it clear.
Because it's an all-inclusive sort of property, like, well,
Yeah,
Okay,
I think
I
it
see what
could
you're
use
saying.
work also.
all right, well, I mean, so that whole section, we'll have to sit with
Okay.
Nick and try to get some cleaner language.
So page 11, retaliation, at the end, we took, it says subject to discipline or termination is what it did say. And it's not in there. I think we need to include that so that if something happens to somebody, we have that inclusive if it rises to that level.
And the only comment Nick came back on that is, yes, you control termination of 80% of your employees, but there's another body that terminates your police and fire.
Right.
Mhm.
So you can't
Well,
have
but
the
it could
language
be-
in there.
It could be up to.
Like, it could be up to, but then I said in cooperation with another, he wants to say you need to identify the PFC if you're gonna use a termination language for your employees, so they're very clear of what the
Right.
expectations are.
I think we
So I
need
can
to
do
do
that,
that
yeah,
there.
that's fine.
Anything else that?
So the back part where we have the pay, the salaries, hourly wages, that extra
Should be 2 pages.
piece, yeah, I'm trying to find it. Is that all? Do we vote on that in budget time or is this included in?
So that, I will add that to
Cause I'm talking
the labor
it's
policy.
like 38, 39 is what I'm
Yes,
talking
so
about.
that's the labor policy you vote on every
Okay.
December.
That's different.
What we will
Okay.
add to the labor policy, you should be adding starting this December, is those 2 pages, because we don't really address insurance rates in our labor policy. You know, so
Sure.
currently we don't,
Sure,
because you don't want to embed it into the base document. There'll be a 1-page, page and a half addendum to the labor policy that every December, because it is a budget discussion,
right.
you guys will vote on. So you're not voting on the employee handbook every year, but you are voting on the
That back
numerics
piece.
of the data that feeds employee. So that'll be something that Diane will add to the labor policy, 1 page added on.
Got it, okay.
I guess with that, I'm gonna make a motion that we, with the changes that Boz is gonna make with the attorney, that we approve the village, the employee handbook and take it to the board for final approval. Do I have a second?
second,
Any discussion?
I'm a little uncomfortable not knowing the wording and how that may pan out, since it's a little more than a word here or there. And I mean, there's no timeline locking us.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but I think if we keep hitting every single thing, we could change every single word in here
Right.
to
By the
fit
time we
different
finish it.
things. So, I mean, we tried to clean up the employee handbook, and I think that was what we're looking to do, is clean up some of the verbiage and some of the details in it. And I think that we have done a 99.9% job of doing that, so that's the reason I think that we need to, move it to the board and okay it, so the employees know what this, it's a 2023 handbook. We'll be looking at 2024, and we still haven't approved this one, so I think we need to move on it. And that's my reason for bringing the motion up.
Gotcha. Boz, do you anticipate we'll have a final document
Oh, yeah,
for the
I
board
mean,
meeting?
Two of your comments you made are just administrative typos. So that's a quick fix. The one big one would be Nick's response to the alcohol language, and you could approve it and even strike that section out next Tuesday at the board meeting. You approve the whole product, but strike out that section if the language brought back to you was not satisfactory. Or you could just let it ride with the language and just work on it months from now.
Well, the revision that you had put in there was kind of going the direction to,
Yeah.
to clarify that one.
I have a-
sentence. And well, yeah,
Do the employees sign this every year? Or is it just like once they're
Yeah,
hired?
the last time it was updated, when I first came in here, they all signed the cover
Okay.
sheet. And it's only signed when it's updated.
Got it.
You know,
Okay. I just didn't know if it was a yearly,
Yeah, well, if we're gonna produce a whole new one, then
then
as
yes.
soon as you all vote on this Tuesday, on Wednesday morning, they're all gonna get that signing sheet, say, read it, sign this, get it back to me in 1 or 2
is
days.
it expected to have 2023, 2024, and so on, or
No.
just kind of?
No, the last one we
Let it-
updated was,
okay.
3 years ago.
Mhm.
It doesn't change drastically.
I'm sorry, one more thing I forgot about, I didn't have it noted here. The weapons policy on page 31, I think we need to check to see if it is legal to have weapons in government buildings. And I believe it is not, it's my concern.
It's the prerogative of the level of government that controls the building. Because me and Chief had this discussion with the sheriff and the DA. You can have a federal law that allows weapons everywhere. But if at certain levels, state, county, municipal, we say, sorry, all it takes is posting it and that's the coverage we need. So we
Right.
control that ability.
Well, yes, but we can do more, like what you're saying is restricting more.
Restricted.
But I don't know that we have I think we need to double check to make sure we have the ability to go less than. I don't know that we can call home rule on that. I think we should double check.
No, I got you. I don't think we are carte blanche giving more power. If anything, we're restricting the power of someone that has even a concealed carry. If we had a sign right there, he would have to report it to us saying, I have a concealed carry.
Right, but I believe, do you know about that, Lon?
Well, if you have a concealed carry, they could, anybody could carry it right now and be in
I
here
mean,
with
do
that.
you know about, is there a law for public buildings? I believe there is.
There is, but, the thing is, like Bob said, we can make it more restrictive. If we put a sign here saying no concealed carry, then they have to report that even before they come in the building. It's kind of like, I can go in the courthouse with a gun anytime I want because I'm deputy status, but then if you start exempting things, then you're gonna have to provide quote lock boxes and safe places to put
Mhm.
guns, which is gonna cost money. Again, 99.9% of the people that carry and conceal, law-abiding citizens,
Right.
they're the ones that actually went through the steps to do it. The ones that I would be concerned about is the person that's gonna come in here with a gun and not let us know, and those people, I think that would be on our radar hopefully beforehand, and I definitely, we could make it restrictive that no firearms in this building, But then our police chief would have to actually put his firearm, you know,
Well,
we
I'm
want,
not-
we
I'm not
want him.
suggesting- I'm
you
not
know.
suggesting we do anything anymore. I'm not
Right.
suggesting that at all. I'm suggesting we just make sure that this is aligned.
Yeah, alcohol and firearms, Nick will
Yeah,
give you some
yeah,
feedback on, yep. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting anything, but make sure we are legal.
Definitely. Again, with that, the motion's on the board that we approve the, village employee handbook with the changes requested. And you seconded, any more discussion? Then I'll take a vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, with that, we'll move that motion to the village board meeting on the 11th.
Put this to bed.
All right,
Discussion on old business. Looks like we have an application, for the TIF economical for the Bella Salon for $5,000 and an application for the public safety mural artworks category.
so as you all approved, a month or so ago, you gave the approval authority with report back to y'all on a frequent basis. Right now, it's gonna be monthly, I would think, so, these are the only two that were submitted. I included the the one-page cover sheet, that's kind of my draft from the village perspective of what they asked for. And then towards the bottom, what, the assessment was and what we approve it for, or I approve it for. And then at the very top, there's this little, gives you a running count of the money that's been allocated to this, and what's in either a current submission means it could be just the beginning of it and hasn't been a check cut. Approved submissions is, I actually have an approval document that's like this, that says approved a certain amount. And then the current balance of the TIF, $250,000. So, Mia Bella, doing multiple things, and they kind of lump it all into one category, so, it's a combination of, expanding their space where they could get another seat in there, which potential job creation. Some plumbing and whatnot work, there's some facade upgrades above and beyond. And because we've done this whole roof, mostly at village expense, granted, that side is all owned individually. They're taking advantage of the contractor we use at a much reduced rate to start fixing up their structures. And this was by no means not gonna pay for it, but helps, them to be able to do that to better those buildings. To make sure they're sustainable for long term. So Mia Bella was pretty cut and dry, a $5,000 overall, or actually 4,000. They asked for 5, I said 4 after I looked at what they submitted. Then you have the letter of their submission. We've kept it very generic, or simple for them to submit. And it really is driven by a submission like this, a site visit, meet the owners, discuss what they're talking about, and that brings my letter into recommendation. So that's, I'm ready to go with that one for 4,000. The mural came out of a meeting last week with Parks. There was a proposal on the spot really here. That's why there's really nothing submitted other than their document to Parks and Rec. And they're asking for an amount that will be used as a matching for them to drive fundraising to get to the $12,000 final price. So we as a village would sign up for $6,000 max loan, or not loan, a grant of 6,000, based only on if they can raise 6,000. So if they only raise 1,000, then I will either say you get 1,000 for sure, or bring it back to this board to say, should we give them the whole 6 to get a mural going? But that'll be a discussion months from now. They're very confident that between Solaris and a few other entities, they will raise the 6,000, knowing that we've already given 6,000. So I'm not worried about that. That was for the grant down here to get the mural going, and you'll see the picture in there. We left this for the board meeting, pretty nice, very small tweaks to that, based on Parks and Rec's guidance, but that'll be the final end state there. What didn't make the packet, I just wanted to make you aware, because it just came in right before the holiday, was the Mission Coffee. So I got my draft letter, but I gotta sit down with them to figure out what I'm gonna call terms of this, because this will be the first one they're asking for a village loan. And I don't want it to go the way of our friends down the street there. So the way I'm discussing with them is, obviously, we're gonna reduce the amount. My recommendation is go down to a $50,000 micro grant loan at a 6% over 3 years. But I really want to sit down with them and say, can we look this as a more of a line of credit? So we will give them up to $50,000, but until they provide receipts of something physically done, then we will cut them a check.
I agree.
And and she's fine with that in concept, but I didn't have the terms of that. I know where the money's going to. It's going to a plumber that we use in a village. It's going to a contractor we use in a village. So I know it's going to be spent. But I would prefer that, the receipt comes from Chad, the plumber. He says, here's $20,000. I've done the work. It's done. I walk over there, I check it. Ben can look at it, and then we cut a $20,000 check to her to pay that off. So then we do not run into problems like we have down here where we just gave them $300,000-400,000 and now we're pulling teeth to get our payments back. That's a discussion that I have with her. That's why this is kind of a draft concept here. I approved the other 3 things are pretty cut and dry. Artwork for an exterior trellis on the side of the building there. That'll get some green space in that big parking lot. There's a space in there. If you remember that structure, as soon as you walk in that structure, the coffee shop is off to the right. That large open space where the manufacturing used to be. There's a large conference room that she's wanting to make kind of like a community entrepreneur spot that works with the schools and brings in groups there to have discussions. She's calling it the community
Learning lab.
So she's wanting some money there just to spruce that interior space up. The space is there. It's not building anything, but some artwork on the walls and that type of stuff. Some good IT for them in there. The biggest part of them is this grant for a micro loan. So I'm going down the route of approval with some refinements, so you should see the final product at the next FHR meeting, unless you have concerns about what's on the agenda here.
I guess my only concern is, what she's sticking in, Mission Coffee, I guess, is what are they sticking in there for their own funds? I mean, we've been doing quite a bit. We bought the building. We stuck a lot of TIF money in there. The TIF money is usually, it's our money, it's taxpayer money.
Yeah.
So we're spending, and I know, for the upgrades, what are they doing as far as spending? And what is the progress? I don't see a whole lot of progress unless I don't see it inside. I mean, I don't mind helping a business get started, but here we are into July and we were talking about March and how much are we going to use the taxpayers' dollars, and I want to see effort on them. Matter of fact, I haven't seen any owners, and maybe I stepped in late, but I haven't seen any owners from Mission Coffee or anything. If they come to the board and present stuff, I guess that would be helpful too for all the trustees.
But that's an easy one because she's very available and will come if we ask for specific. At this level for asking this, I would definitely ask her to attend either one of these meetings or a board meeting to put the ask out. I think we got to clearly understand that, yes, we've spent up to $100,000 right now with the purchase of the building and bringing it to code. But you got to remember, we also are in finalizing the lease agreement where she's buying it from us.
Okay.
So we're gonna get all that money right back.
Has she started the rent?
It's been tied to our finishing up the code because you can't give her a spot that's not up to code.
Okay.
So we're finishing up the HVAC and we're finishing up the plumbing to bring it to code. We have the contracts. That'll bring us that $100,000 amount that we've invested into it. But as soon as that work is done, I think I started her September 1st. She will start making payments on the lease purchase where she's buying it from us for $135,000. So all the money we've invested, we're gonna get back in a purchase. And it goes back not to TIF, it comes back to us because it's just revenue.
Is Nick doing those contracts?
Nick's working, yeah, we talked last week about the contract.
I mean, I hope we have some teeth in it if it goes bad and not right down the block.
What's the lease purchase? So there will be, if God forbid something happens, she pulls out, it's just like if you had a lease purchase on a house, you're gonna lose your, a significant portion of what you put down. She's already put down 1,000 just as promissory money. But in the lease agreement, we're gonna ask for a little bit more chunk to solidify her. She can buy it earlier than 3 years. She has 3 years to lease it from us and then buy. But if she, after 1 year and she's making money, she can just buy it outright and call it a day and get out of that lease.
Well, and then on the TIF loan also, I mean, that's, just hope we're not again, and I'm sure that her intentions and everything is good, but we got an awful lot of money that we haven't been recovering in a timely.
Yeah.
So I hope that if Nick is working on that, I'm sure he'll do. I don't know who did the last time.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's why we're leaning more towards a line of credit rather than a TIF loan. Then we control truly our destiny, that
Right,
we don't give her a dime until she gives me a big receipt that the money paid. So.
right.
But so that's in a work in progress. In the inside, she's provided me all the new architectural diagrams. I've met with the plumber, the contractor she's working with, me and Ben's met with them, so. The reality is, her amount of work is really dependent on us finishing up what we have to do. Cause we're doing all the new HVAC lines. She can't start slapping up walls if we're tearing them all
So
down.
what is that timeline looking like?
For us, because of the summer, the soonest that our two things will be done will be the end of August. So that's where we said it's September 1st, we should start paying it, because then we're out of it. We spent all our money we're gonna spend, now it's on her for her projects.
I guess the only other thing that I would probably bring up is, we had this grant approval and we kind of gave you the hand to approve them. But with your departure, I think that it probably should come back to FHR, so the applications come here and then we can approve them. Because you'll be
No, you're right. Yeah.
down south unless we send them by pigeon.
No, it's good. So, submissions will come to the office here, Diana Kim will get them, and they'll just. If there's someone in the seat, he'll get them, she'll get them, or you'll just see them on your agenda for the next meeting to discuss, and you'll basically have that 1-page document that's submitted, and then you guys are gonna have to figure it out. So,
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on discussion? Okay, new business.
This is just regular, housekeeping that we do, after we sat down with Ben and Diane, we really don't have anything in writing that says it's an automatic. That's been kind of how it's worked. And that's where everyone starts bumping up when it comes to our public works. That's the only place we have grades. No other position we have grades. Police, it's automatic based on in writing that 1 year of service, it's an automatic. 2 years of service, it's an automatic. Then they cap out at the highest we pay. For our public works guys, after a year, we will assess that individual based on their annual performance, and then there's a recommendation. So what I had from this year is when the annual performance evaluations for our public works guys came in, Ben was recommended David Mock, which is a stellar individual that's been with us a year now. We're recommending to move up to grade 2, and the 2 other guys that are in grade 2 and 3 right now would bump up based on their performance evaluations. There's no bump up of the other 4 guys. They're static in their positions. So, my recommendation here is that we're gonna elevate these 3. It's baked into our finances for the year when it comes to payroll. It's only $2,500 extra for the rest of the year for all 3 of these guys to go up there a few cents per pay grade. And then there should be no other, definitely no other employee actions in public works for the remainder of this year into next summer. And even then, it's a discussion based on performance of these 3 guys and the other guys if needed. So this will just be presented to the board.
Do we need a motion or is that?
We don't, yeah, I don't think we've done a motion to pass one. I don't think so. Yeah.
And just Brady is Brady, not Brandon on there. We'll change that.
No, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
On the partner.
Yeah.
I think we have done those in the past. In a motion.
We can, I mean, it's not gonna hurt anything. You tell me if you want a motion to move these 3 up to these grades, it'll be in the board agenda. Honestly, I didn't look at last time we did it, and it was,
I'll support the motion.
Alright.
Any second?
Second.
Any other discussion? With that, vote, all in
Aye.
favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Okay, that will go to the board.
Just kind of a quick question about, not about necessarily the motion, but if this is it, since we just discussed the employee handbook, should something like this elevate be part of the the procedure, or? Cause you started out the conversation,
Yeah,
but it
you're right,
wasn't,
yeah.
it wasn't written anywhere.
I would have to look in where we talk assessments in there. And I think when you look at the assessment section, there is the ability of the person supervisor to make recommendations for probation.
Yeah, I just wanna
But I
make
can
sure
check
that,
that language.
that something like this stays consistent every year, that we don't lose process.
Okay, any correspondence received?
Nothing from FHR.
Agenda items for next meeting. I guess just the update on the TIF, grants and any other items that would be passed on to FHR.
If grant, you'll have your, I would highly recommend it, your first swag at the, department budgets. 'Cause this will be for, August.
Okay,
So department budgets start coming in this month, and then they will be reviewed by y'all per department. And then, and the committees look at them all as well, and then you guys will look at the consolidated budget in the September time. So it'll be start budget, department budget reviews.
and then maybe if we get an interim on the agenda, I guess,
Yeah,
interim, administrator.
do you have an update? Have we had any? Sorry,
I
that probably
put
should
you
have
as
been
the
under.
POC, so I ain't getting nothing.
Okay, I just didn't know if you heard
No.
anything.
Nothing, we've got no correspondence from, right, Brian? No, so,
I do have a question. I don't know if this is FHR or maybe just the board, but in the interim, should we discuss exactly the things that as chairs or as department heads will take on temporarily? I think the question was like minutes, and how is that going to work? Because I don't want department heads or any of us falling through the cracks with an interim. Does that make sense? I mean, just a
Yeah.
little,
We
you
could put
know,
that on the agenda, of, discussion on responsibility of department heads. Or,
You know, like-
in the,
us, us going
Change
back
over.
to maintaining the agendas and the minutes. Just so that things don't fall through.
Usually for BOS, it was somebody would volunteer
Just the minutes.
unless it was FHR or the full board. And then the department heads typically have a closer relationship with the chair.
Okay, I wanna make sure all that, so it doesn't, if things don't start falling
Yeah.
to the wayside when we transition,
Puts the
so,
committees in a little closer role directly with the department heads
okay.
doing what.
Yeah, I just wanna
BOS
make
would
sure
do.
that we're very aware of what our game plan is in the interim time, so.
okay, our next meeting is August 3rd, 4 p.m. We also have a closed session, or 4:30, sorry,
Oh, Jesus.
yeah.
I mean, you can make it for, tell, that's the usual time we said, it's after work hours.
With that, I will adjourn the meeting at 10:45 a.m. Thank you guys for coming.
BOS